Articles like this make me wonder, who watches this movie and have they watched movies before? Welcome back, guys. I finally watched Eli. It's on Netflix right now. It's a new horror movie, I guess you would call it. I wasn't honestly going to do a review on this because it was just a random Sunday night where I wasn't doing anything, and I was like, you know what, let's watch this on Netflix because apparently this movie makes demons or ghosts appear in every corner of your house, or apparently it was that scary to some people. And yeah, no, that was not the case at all. Now, I feel like the hype train for Netflix has been done before, and a perfect example of that is Bird Box. I remember when that movie came out, everybody was talking about it. Everybody had a meme about it. Everybody was saying that it was so good, that it was like the best horror movie out there. And then when I watched it, I was so disappointed, and I was really frustrated and annoyed at how that movie turned out, you know, because it was nothing like I was expecting, especially with the way that people talked about it. I was like, yeah, this is not good. But Eli is kind of on that borderline because I keep hearing good things about it, but at the same time it's like, what are you guys watching? Because this movie is not all that great. So the movie is obviously about Eli. He's this kid who has this weird illness, like he starts to flare up, his body turns all red and pinkish, and he just starts screaming. Like it seems like he can't breathe air, like he can't be outside for too long, but it's kind of weird because he's outside and I don't know where he just collapses on the ground. And then we get introduced to his family, which to me honestly doesn't seem like a family at all. Like they just seem like a bunch of characters thrown into a movie together, and they're supposed to be a family. And another thing that this film does is that they're trying to portray them as this family who just spent every single little penny on this doctor that honestly it didn't seem like that. This family still looked wealthy to me, but the movie wants me to believe that they are poor somehow because of Eli's thing. Eli is living in a hazmat suit, so he's basically in his own little bubble. So if that bursts, he starts to freak out because he can't breathe and his skin starts to flare up. Honestly, from when I started watching this movie, it felt like anytime he had an anxiety attack, he would just flare up. I was like, okay, maybe, you know, try to keep him calm and see what happens. But no, they decide to go to this house and meet Dr. Horn, who has a treatment, and of course, you know, the treatment's not gonna work because obviously we need to watch a movie. Now, I am gonna get into some spoiler territory, so I'll give some spoilers and my thought on this ending because apparently it's a huge twist ending, and I'll give you my thoughts on that, but I won't reveal anything up until I give you my score. Up until we get to the doctor's house, you don't really know what's wrong with Eli. Like there's no real like definition of his illness, so by this point you're kind of clueless as to what's going on. They go into this house that's supposed to be like completely clean of fresh air, you know, and when he takes off his suit, he's totally fine. You meet Dr. Horn. She seems sketchy from the beginning, and Eli is actually pretty smart for once. We actually have a smart kid in a movie. He's actually asking her all these questions about, hey, you know, how many people have you treated? Were they actually treated? And Dr. Horn is like, well, I'm not gonna say anything because we need to keep that until the end of the movie, which is pointless because if I was in that scenario, I'll be asking the same questions and I better get a freaking answer back because I am not about to get treated by some random doctor that said that they treated other kids with the same type of illness. Now, the movie itself, it talks about ghosts and tells in the articles and all that stuff, people keep saying that, you know, there's ghosts, demons everywhere, and you're like, okay, where? But it's basically like a haunted house. This movie doesn't know what it wants to be because you have part haunted house, part demons, part ghosts, and then the twist ending, which I'll get into. He gets dragged around this house, you know, he's seeing all these hallucinations. And we've seen this before many times in the form of cliches. You know, you see a ghost in a mirror, or, you know, the camera pans away, goes back to the character, pans away again, slowly goes back to the character. Nothing's there, and then when he turns around, bam, jump scare. So there's a lot of jump scares in this movie, and obviously they're very predictable, and they're not well done because you see it from miles away. One thing that's like so on the nose is that this kid likes to do magic tricks. And there's even a scene where he's laying in bed, you know, after the procedure. He's reading this book on how to pick a lock. And I'm like, let me guess, he's gonna pick a lock. And of course, he picks a super top secret drawer, like instantly, like if he's been practicing overnight, and he opens it and finds all these files that give him answers and, you know, the truth about Dr. Horn. And it's like, well, that was way too easy. Like I wish I learned stuff like that from reading. Like I said, you know, like this movie is a mixed bag. The family themselves don't seem like a real family to me. The mom kind of makes it interesting a couple of times, but then again, the decisions in the end that they all take is just like what the heck is going on? Because of the twist, the mom herself reveals something to us as the audience, and you're like, why? Like, why was any of this even necessary to begin with? Because it seems like this kid was kind of okay from the beginning, except, you know, he starts flaring up for reasons, and you kind of find out that Dr. Horn is like, you know, obviously not really a doctor, I guess. I mean, even though she's doing all these procedures and stuff like that. And the treatments that they do with him obviously are not working because we need a movie. One thing that really bugged me, and I mean, this is from an IT perspective because I work in, you know, in the IT department, is that there's a door that only needs 3 digits to be unlocked. 3 digits. That annoyed the hell out of me. Like, at least make it 4 digits. Like, I mean, 3 digits, come on. No, the scenes with the lab are pretty creepy and gross. I think those were the most effective to me because you have this doctor drilling into this kid, like drilling into his skull, and it's pretty graphic. So if you guys get turned off by that, maybe don't watch those scenes or close your eyes or don't watch the movie at all. Oh, and I forgot to include Haley. Haley is played by the girl from Stranger Things. Sadie Sink is in this movie, but she's literally outside of the house. So she can't go in, and she tells Eli that, hey, Dr. Horn doesn't like me because I used to talk to the other kids. She's basically there to fill us in on a couple things. That's basically her character in this movie. Her character was pretty disposable. With that said, guys, I mean, the ending itself is crazy. I think that's probably the one moment where I'm like, Eli is freaking badass, I guess. But other than that, the movie is just a throwaway horror movie. Like, there's nothing that's new. There's nothing that you're gonna be like, oh my god, that movie was amazing, or this is something new, this is something fresh. No, there's nothing that's gonna scare you, I don't think. I mean, I watched this, I felt like I was forced to watch this by myself because I almost didn't make it through. But if I were gonna say, yes, you could watch this movie, you can probably pick out a lot of things. You can have a good time predicting jump scares and stuff like that. Maybe that's something you like to do. So if that's a movie for you, then watch this movie. So with that said, guys, I'm gonna give Eli, that's on Netflix, a 1.9 out of 5. And honestly, I felt like a 2 was too high for this movie. I feel bad saying that. I shouldn't be harsh on movies, but those are my thoughts. Now spoilers, because this ending is crazy. Like I said, this movie is part haunted house because he's seeing a lot of shit in there. It's part possession because he's getting dragged around the place. Then this movie turns into The Exorcist. These doctors actually turn out to be from this church, and they're nuns, and they start performing an exorcism on Eli because apparently Eli's mom made a pact with the devil to have a kid because she couldn't have a kid, and that kind of explains why the dad was weird with him the whole time. Like, I guess it's not his son at all, so he's the devil's kid. So that's why apparently they've been feeding him holy water and all these pills that's supposed to extract the demon from him. But unfortunately for Eli, it was just making him sick and flare up. And the whole time it was actually, that was him. You know, he was able to breathe the whole time normally. Like, nothing was wrong with this kid at all. So in a way, everything leading up to this was pointless because we already know that the other kids did not make it. I knew that way before we even saw the bodies. The treatments were never going to work. So they performed this exorcism and that failed. So then the next option was to cleanse his soul, aka murder the kid. And then out of nowhere, this turns into The Omen. And now we have a bunch of a hodgepodge of movies. So it's like, well, I don't know what this movie wanted to be, but apparently at the end of it, he decides to turn into a little demon, I guess. To me, he becomes a little badass because he picks up the nuns, like they're like going around catching on fire upside down. He just burns them to death, and he escapes this haunted house and leaves with his mom. But here's the catch. Haley, the girl that was waiting outside the whole time, is basically there to tell him like, hey, oh, you made it. You are my brother, half brother. And the way that we know that is because she winks at him and her eyes turn red as well. And I'm like, cool. So now these kids are basically holding his mom hostage, and she drives off, and that's the end of the movie. So that's the thing with this movie. It doesn't know what it wants to be from the beginning. So it's part possession, part haunted house, part like ghosts, jump scares, and then it turns into The Exorcism for like a good 5 minutes, and then The Omen at the end. So it's like, what did you want to be? That's why this movie does not work for me in the end, because this kid went through all this stuff to find out that he was actually okay. Like, the kid himself is not evil at all. So like, you learn from a very early stage that this kid is okay. He's going through some shit, that he's in a hazmat, but if he didn't have to go through that, I think he would have lived his life normal if his mom didn't decide to like freaking poison him with holy water or stuff like that. Like, that made no sense to me. Especially when his mom says that, I made a pact with the devil. Like, dude, what did you expect? Like, what did you expect your kid to be? I know I'm over analyzing at this point, but at the same time, it's like, how can you not over analyze shit like that? So yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe and like this video if you guys like my content. And as always, guys, stay tuned.